All right, do I hear a motion that we approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes? Do I hear? All right, and we're approving the September minutes and the July minutes?
Just one.
I'm going to make the copies. Okay.
Okay, there was no August meeting, so we need to approve the July minutes, and we need to approve the September minutes.
So moved.
I make a motion to approve
Nope.
both months.
Second.
Okay,
August and now August, but to July and September.
okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then the minutes are approved for July and September. Okay, old business. Is there a roadscapes update, Mr. Berkeley?
Yes, spoke with Andrew Krager this morning, and Mr. Hall spoke with him yesterday, and then he sent out a letter to LSI, several people there with Lawson Associates and Mr. Hall and myself. I'm going to read over the letter. It says, Ken is going over, and this is, Ken Bryant is the guy there at Lawson Associates. Ken is going over the materials, certification, and et cetera as a CEI. I do not speak for him with regard to those items. I am emailing about the pay application. As I remember from our meeting here at Los, LSI is going to request payment for the 2 islands at this time and not the median. That would be invoiced after changes have been made. We are calling change order number 002. The pay request you sent me was for plus or minus 90% of the entire contract amount. We cannot authorize payment for that amount. Additionally, Mr. Hall reminded me that the city has already issued payment for $15,000. They shouldn't have paid that at the time, but now they need you to make an official pay request for that amount so they can have that distribution reimbursed by the state. That needs to happen first. The pay application you just sent me did not even acknowledge that payment. I assume that it was an oversight. If another meeting is needed to work through this issue, please let me know. Feel free to call. I'm available at your convenience. Best regards, Andrew Krager. And so, and this was addressed to Paul Stacy III of LSI. And so they're asking for the money. And
90% of the contract amount.
Let me,
well,
can I
yeah.
hold that? I do better hold it in my hand.
can I hold the agenda?
Yes, you can hold that. Okay. Here, you hold this. So, all right, so I'm
Okay.
so confused. So Ken works for Lawson Associates.
Yeah, Ken, John, and Andrew is with Lawson Associates.
And Paul works for LSI.
Paul Stacy III
Is LSI.
LSI.
So Paul apparently sent them, do we have the letter that Paul sent to them?
Is there a letter to the city requesting? It's just to,
I mean, do we have a copy of the letter that they sent to Lowe's?
No, ma'am. I don't.
So.
what's Andrew's he's covering us on this, is that he's saying that, well, money's already been spent.
We just need a proper invoice stating what it was for, so
Yep.
we can turn it into the state, because Andrew, once he found out that we had paid them, they requested it without going through the proper channels. And when I talked to Andrew, he said, don't make any more payments. He said, I understand this is an upfront draw. He said, but don't make any more payments. So what we want a proper invoice so we can send to the state and get reimbursed.
So they had not invoiced us and we paid it?
They brought in an invoice, but they didn't state what all it was for. That's,
So it wasn't itemized?
no, that's what we got to have, a proper itemization so we can send it to the state.
And is that invoice going to first go to TDOT or Los before it comes to the city, before it comes to you, or what, how does that?
They need to present it to Krager or Loesch.
Right.
And then we get a copy of it so we can send on
Right.
to TDOT.
So do we know what the letter said that LSI sent to Lowe's?
No, they haven't copied me on it.
Gathered from his
I
email,
didn't even get copied on that.
Yeah, I gather from his email that there's lots of things going on.
Like, it was just a pay app request, and it didn't have an itemization, it was for a larger amount than anticipated.
Well, apparently there's also some question about material certification. And because he says I did not speak for him with regard to those items. I'm emailing about the
what that
pay
is.
application.
That was something that we're not aware of. That must be the products that,
Is that a TDOT request?
probably, yes.
Well, I'm a little confused. So why does the state, what do they,
They're ready for an invoice.
okay,
We've already invoiced, we've got them satisfied with the, they like 30-day invoices.
But why ain't
Quarterly
it,
for sure. We've already invoiced for the advertising for the bid. So, in fact, we're probably pretty close to getting reimbursed for the advertising. Andrew, I wanted the invoice to 15,000, and Andrew said he needed to do some checking into that. So I was the one that was pushing the envelope, trying to get the 15,000 invoice, so
Well, and
so we
wait,
could keep TDOT happy with the constant flow of invoicing.
well, wait a
Right.
minute, but LSI, the pay request they have sent to Lowe's is plus or minus 90% of the entire contract amount.
They're not ready to sign off on that yet because the job hasn't been done properly.
no, and then also what they're trying to do, and I know how this works, they're trying to split this up into different projects.
Yeah.
And the loop, everything in the loop, they're saying, okay, we're having to redo the median, but the loop's done. Well, no, it's not, because they got to replace the trees. They've got to replace a lot of plants,
Yeah, right.
actually. And so the job is not done.
Right.
So, and I'm guessing that they're wanting to get this money because they do have to purchase more material, especially if the replacement of those trees are not cheap. And then all that's that they've got
But
to.
Loesch and them are not ready to sign off on it, that they're ready for
Well, no.
reimbursement.
Because he's saying right here, he's not paying 90% of the contract. But here's my question. Who is responsible for paying that? Does that come out of city coffers?
Once Loesch signs off on it, then it comes out of our tree bank fund. We pay it up front and we get reimbursed. And that's the reason I want to get the 15,000 reimbursed, because it'll help us pay the future.
So why, I mean, I guess I'm confused as to why LSI would even be brave enough to send a 90% bill.
I don't know.
Bravery is.
Well, I mean, it seems to be
It's a
having to be
word.
awfully brash that they would send an invoice for 90% of the entire contract, and it looks like it looks.
Well, Loesch and his associates have stopped at 90%.
I understand that.
And I will not recommend it myself until we're satisfied.
My take is, this is the best way it can be handled, is that you've got Lowe's and Associates saying, no, you can't do this under the city.
do we have to pay our 20% first of the grant? Or does it,
And can 20%, can part of that be in-kind funds? Can part of that be labor? Or does it have to be 20%, does it have to be 20% in cash?
Cash, I would assume,
Who has the grant?
city.
So could we check to see if some of that money could be in-kind instead of all cash? Because the grant should spell that out.
I think it's just like an
I'll have,
80-20 match or whatever, to where if it's a $100,000 project, they would pay you $80,000 at the end of the day, and we pay 20. You can minimize our 20 on our side, we would.
Yeah, can we minimize our 20 and still match, they'd still do the grant requirement? Okay, so at this point in time, Lowe's is responsible for doing all the payouts. They're responsible for
We're
making sure it's
responsible
done
for making
properly.
sure that everything's proper.
And so they're responsible for making sure the contract is being adhered to and the grant's being done properly. And so the city is kind of out of it, right?
We're kind of out of it until they sign off on it.
So Lowe's is going to tell the city when it's okay to pay.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
okay, so where did we get from this point where they were just gonna oversee
Yeah.
some of it. to-
Modified,
They're
oversight.
modified to, we're doing it all.
They're actually now stating in that letter that I read just then that they're furnishing the CEI, which is a civil engineer inspector. Very first of that.
Okay, but
So
is
is that
that
how you get it?
modified oversight, or is that mean they, because, he very clearly told us when he was here that it was modified oversight only.
They're doing the CEI on it now, according to that letter right there. Which I
And
think
it's
is.
going over the
Ken.
material certification and et cetera as the CEI. It doesn't say that he's gonna do complete oversight. It just says that he's going over the materials.
Well, he actually told us in the meeting that unless you're talking, did he come back? But original meeting, they sounded like they were overseeing it. Did he
Yeah.
come back another time and
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, the second meeting,
Okay.
it was, yes, they
Okay,
only were
since we
doing
met.
modified, yes,
Okay.
because when we were talking about the mess it was, and they were planting beyond the time they were supposed to plant, he said they only had modified oversight. That it wasn't up to them.
Yeah, I remember now.
Modified oversight.
That meant that they were not the ones that had final say. The city should have said, you're planning beyond what the contract says. It's too late. You cannot start planting again until the next planting season. And so, because it was planted in June,
Yeah, you can plan in June.
well, I know, but they were saying
But
that
the
because the contract said you could
said
not.
April 15th was the last day.
So Lowe's and Associates told us they had modified oversight. It was not their job to make sure that LSI adhered to what was in the grant and in the contract. It was the city's job. So now, that's why I'm asking, so whose job is it now? We don't want to get in the mess we got into
Mike is
before.
Making sure that all the plants are proper. I've given him
With
permission
Lowe's.
back when I was- Right.
Yeah, I'm working with Lowe's on it,
Back
and
when I
it's,
was city manager, I give him
Yeah.
permission to watch over those.
this is what we probably should have done in the beginning, but again, like you said, our understanding was that they were the general contractor, not the city.
Or the overseer, so to speak.
So we do have, and, as long as there's a really good communication line with Andrew Krager, and I'll even call John Lavender on that, that we're, my concern to Andrew this morning was, here we go again, we're a week out, a little more than a week out from the starting of the planting time.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's November 15th. And the next thing you know, it's the middle of December, January. And then the next thing you know, we're going back. So I keep stressing to him, it says, we need to expedite this as quickly as possible because I know how landscape companies work. And then I can't get any clarification on this, but the plant replacement list should already be in LSI's hands, which might be the reason that they're saying,
We want 90,
we
we want
want some money
90% of the
'cause,
contract.
but, there's nothing, and every time I call LSI, I get shut down. So it's really, the only communication line I have right now is between, myself and Lawson Associates.
Well, at what point in time can we say that LSI is in violation of the contract and put
Well-
it out to another landscaper?
I don't think that's gonna be really TDOT. I don't think,
Well, so that's where I get confused. Exactly, if the city is responsible for enforcing
I
that
don't know.
contract,
Can we? I would think that would be a very good move, but it's gonna cost more because the next lowest bid was way up there.
Wait, it was 100 and something thousand higher than theirs.
That's
Well,
crazy.
So when you say that, when you call LSI, you're getting shut down, what are you calling them for and what are they?
I'm trying
what
to
are they doing?
communicate with them and say, okay, let's work this out. Let's get, okay, what about,
The new
can I
plant
help you
list.
find the
And
plant material?
what's happening when you do that?
I'm getting nothing in return. The buyer used to call us and ask us the questions, and now we're not getting that anymore.
Okay, because, I see the owner of LSI quite frequently because he's
Paul?
also he also is our property manager at Publix. Their contract, with their landscaping is with LSI.
I would
So I mean,
like,
is there anything that,
I would like to have a phone call from someone in charge at LSI, not from Lowe's. And the other thing too is that they're having meetings obviously, it just said, but we're not involved
We're
in it.
not involved.
And
Okay, and
if we
that's-
are the one that, we're the client, is how the business world sees it. We're the client and we're not in these meetings. So this really, it concerns me because there's junk out in that median right now that's got to be fixed. And it's, you know, we met out there one of the hottest days of the summer to get all this worked out. That's been, what, almost 2 months ago, maybe?
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, August
Let me
maybe.
ask you a question. Why don't we talk to Lowe's and tell them, if they're meeting with LSI in our project, we want to be there.
I think that's very appropriate. And I'm,
And the reason being is if we're the one giving the final approval, I
Yeah.
don't want to see you or anybody in this committee or anybody in the city have to go up to the last minute and then something thrown in on the last
well,
minute.
and so I have a bad feeling, just like what happened last time where we were confused about who's in charge. Who
We're
is the
still
jo-
confused about
we're
who's in
still
charge.
because if they are calling the meetings, then we that's paying the bill is not involved. And I'm guessing TDOT's in on these meetings as well. I don't know, but right now it looks like it's Lawson Associates
Unless
and
they're
LSI.
talking
I don't know why they,
I haven't
I
been.
me's Sean's
I
not
hadn't been
involved.
emailed
Yeah.
by Sean or Denise.
Has the city manager, has the new city manager been involved?
Not yet. He's had his plate full right now, but,
Well, I understand that, but this is part of his plate.
yes.
Patty, can we send a recommendation to the board that the board appoint someone to become involved in this and make sure they're attending any meetings that are going on?
Well, I would be glad to attend any meeting. I don't think it needs to go to the board. And I have attended meetings, but like they said, they haven't invited us to any meetings. So I will definitely send an email and tell them I want to go to the meetings.
Well, it appears to me that if we have the grant, if the money, the grant was made to the city of Fairview, correct? So then it's our money. So if people are having meetings without us being involved, then I would say at that point in time, no one gets any money until we get caught up and attend the meetings. I mean, that's
No, money's not
ridiculous.
going out. I mean, that's 100%.
I'll go to the city
Not a
board.
dime's going out.
Well, here's my question too. I think it's very interesting that this Andrew person says that the city of Fairview should never have paid that money.
Right, and that was still in the beginning part where there was that misunderstanding. You're talking that was, whatever, June,
The check was probably written in, I forgot when the bid was.
Why did we pay it?
They said it was their upfront money that they needed, you know, to help get the.
Who told us that? Was
That was
that?
Paul, Stacy.
Well,
That's the
why?
only, since the bid, that was the only other time I saw it.
That's kind of like people coming to seal your driveway, they want the money up front.
Well, but that's customary.
That's customary.
When someone does a construction project, I have always paid, a certain portion up front where they pay for materials, and then you pay the balance, whatever that balance is, when the job's finished. So that happens all the time.
If they get a loan, they get money up front, or if they get, the person who has a contract with usually gives up some upfront money, and then on, it's a regular thing, regular time, they pay them as it goes, if the project has met specifications. If they haven't, they don't get paid.
Well, so if we paid them in June and they were still out there planning, how could we have thought they were meeting specifications if they were supposed to have been finished by April 15th?
Because we thought Lawson Associates was the acting general contractor. And there was-
The acting CEI.
Okay, well, see, this is where I'm getting lost again. Because it appears to me that if I have a grant in my hand and the contract of the grant says you have to be finished by April 15th, and they come to me on June 15th, and they've still got mud on their boots where they've been out there planning, I'd be highly suspicious if they're actually acknowledging and going by the contract.
But we thought, and I'm speaking for the city, okay, that we thought someone else was in charge, not the city of Fairview. And that was right up until that meeting.
They already had trees and everything in place, and we were giving them storage at the,
But they were going,
So we probably paid in April.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, when was that check given to
I
them?
thought Wayne said in June.
No.
No, that was when they went out and walked the,
no, that's,
Walk
we
the
walked in
plants.
August, but.
oh, I'm sorry, in
They
August,
actually
I'm
didn't-
sorry, yeah. They
If y'all
planted in
remember,
June.
they didn't actually start any planting until May.
yeah, it was
Right,
after.
We had
right,
the
that,
dedication
I
in May.
take back what I said.
Remember you called me?
The planting was going on in June and they walked it in August. So the check was paid probably at
Why
the
they had
beginning of the
planted
whole
trees.
thing.
Well,
Probably back in April, right?
Yeah, the check was probably April,
April.
when that's how they bought the.
The plants,
they
yeah.
didn't plant until
But,
June.
and John Lavender,
The
in his
restore.
office one day back in the summer, he said something about the 90-day deal. There was a 90-day that they went past their 90-day
I heard
allotment
that.
or whatever.
You've been in a meeting or two that I haven't been in.
Well,
Well-
and the guy that was here the last time said.
John Lavin.
That they were supposed to have notified them 30 days.
Right.
Prior to beginning of planting.
Yeah, so none of that's been done.
None of that's been done.
Yeah.
So it appears that from day one, they have not abided by the contract. And now they've had the nerve to request 90% of the the funds, which makes me real scared about how, are they reliable? Are they honest? Are they capable of doing the job? Because at no point in time have they gone with the contract.
I agree with that. I mean, 100%. I think that they definitely
So
didn't.
what you're asking, do we have the power to fire?
LSI.
Well, I'm sure that's something we need to look into, but basically, they had to be somebody the state approved. So, that's why the state's kinda, when we had that meeting, kinda got involved with it, because basically, they pretty much gave us a list of people.
Let me ask you this, how did we go about in this bid assuring that we had a common
They were state approved.
criteria?
Landscape park, how did we,
They were
yeah.
state approved. They were state approved, and TDOT approved.
Yeah, they have a selection of people that,
At all to give a.
well, they were.
Yeah, but you can't, if they're approved by the state, then you can't tell them. You can't do that.
But I think there's a difference in low bidder and quality of work.
Competence.
Competence. I mean, I can be the low bidder, but you don't want me planting stuff, and for all we know, the state approved me.
Well, everything that I heard about LSI was always good,
Yeah, they're huge.
Well, they do have
and you see them everywhere.
They are huge.
Yeah, they're very huge.
So is
Mike
Wells
and I have had
Fargo.
a good relationship with John Fraser.
So is that?
Well, so is Wells Fargo,
Oh.
a big outfit. I mean, I don't think the size of the outfit has anything to speak of the quality of the work they do.
No, in this business, there's quality and quantity, and usually those two
Do
rarely
not
meet.
mix.
So it is but that's low bid. I have dealt with low bid people a long time. For 20-something years, I've dealt with low bid people, but here's the deal. There were specifications put on the initial plan from Lawson Associates that, and I actually have a plan back home in my office that has highlighted of things they didn't do. And one, of course, the big one is that they went way past the planting. And it shows on that plan, it's the specs, every design that comes across this desk with the tree commission, from a certified licensed landscape architect, has those specifications on there. What they did, Lawson Associates, said, okay, here's your planting time, do not go past it, because we know you're not gonna succeed, the plant's not gonna survive. So they went way past that, and then this other is not letting Lawson Associates, giving them a 30-day. And then there was another, and this is where I'm confused, but John Lavender's talking about the 90-day period.
I don't remember.
If it goes
I remember the
longer
30.
than 90,
I remember the 30, I don't remember the 90.
it was something, John Lavender says, well, they went more than 90 days on the project,
We
and
have a copy of the contract.
we do.
And where is it?
Well, it's on the design. Now, he's doing a new plan. And what we talked about was that the specifications are gonna be on the plan.
I know the contract, the plan's part of the contract, but I mean the actual verbiage,
But weren't you here helping during all that time?
not for that.
There's
Well,
a book.
I do know that,
Brandy's, would have it, and she's out this week.
I do know that when the guy came to the last meeting, that, because I asked, okay, if they were supposed to notify you 30 days prior to their plant start, you know, who gave them authorization to start? Well, they did. Lowe's did. And so that's when I really got confused because, okay, well, why wasn't, and I asked him, why wasn't the city involved in that decision? So, and that's when he started talking about modified oversight. They only had, apparently they had enough oversight to give them permission to start planting in May, June.
Part of that was when Mr. Krager was in the hospital.
Yeah, and, yeah.
He was
Well-
in there for several weeks.
Well, luckily, all our meetings are taped, so we can go back and review that because it was what he gave us on the original meeting was a total different wording. Now, after that, second meeting, modify kept coming up, and they wanted to use it in the meeting that Wayne and Mike had here, but I made sure that they knew very clearly that that was not what was told, and now that we know, that's what Mike is involved. So I think the next step is to probably contact them and, you know, request to be in these meetings. They shouldn't be having meetings without us.
That's what's blowing me away. I mean, and they're saying meetings
Well,
on this, so.
but has there, or is he saying, here's this information, if another meeting is needed, but here's my request, that we get the email that was, the information that was sent to Lowe's, that they responded with this. So where is the other half of
Yeah.
this?
It's probably just a simple invoice or something, no, it's just.
Well, I think there must be more because there's also a question here. I mean, he's saying that the CEI is, so there must have been more to it than just an invoice.
The invoice that I requested on it was talked to Andrew Krager about it yesterday. So that's
And
what-
did he give you an invoice or, for the gravel? That's what, no? So we don't have that either. See, I'm telling you, Wayne,
Okay.
something's not right with that. That's,
I would recommend that we request the information that came from LSI to Lowe's that generated this response. We need to know what happened prior.
I initiated it yesterday, and I wasn't even copied on that.
So let's call Paul or email Paul and say,
this is.
what
yeah.
is this the response to?
Everybody on here, you've got three guys from Los, Paul Stacy, and myself. And, well, no, it's got you on here.
What does that have?
Computer.
Yeah.
It might be
The
on,
CM?
CM at.
Well,
Fair-
that,
it's probably on Scott's.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, that's what happened.
yeah.
Well, then, somebody needs to be notified of email
I'll
changes.
be in town tomorrow. I'll make a trip by there.
Let me ask you this question.
Mike,
How,
I
how,
want to
how
get a copy of
is
that.
Lowe's in the contract?
Well, Scott can give it to me. Do what?
How is Lowe's in the contract? I mean, they are contracted to do this particular job,
Yeah.
T,
and they are named as.
TDOT hired, yeah, TDOT hired Lowe's.
Oh, TDOT did.
TDOT has
So we
hired
don't
Lowe's.
actually have a contract.
TDOT is actually paying Lowe's fees.
To do this.
But
Okay.
we signed an agreement, like anytime you get a grant,
Yeah, I know.
we sign. So, I mean, that's saying that we abide by the requirements of the grant.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what I was thinking. I was
Okay.
thinking about with Lowe's is, you know, they're a general contractor, partial contractor, I mean, how is their thing with TDOT done? It's not even with us, it's with TDOT.
The actual, in the end, it's gonna be left up to Fairview and Lowe's, but Fairview's gotta be satisfied before we pay the bill.
And according to the guy from Lowe's, the last time he was here, their contract with TDOT was to have modified oversight.
And see, there's,
That's what I didn't understand, I thought they had a contract with us.
No,
That's
TDOT.
why I'm confused about why they're all of a sudden gonna see it through. Like, when did the change?
And that's what we thought to begin with, then they backed out of it, so now they seem to be in it and cutting us all out of the loop.
Again,
Again,
Yeah.
so, and then maybe next week they may be out of it again.
so, because I don't understand the legal part of, what happens if we don't pay? Because we are the client, and I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, we are the client, okay?
Basically,
They-
they gotta satisfy us before we're obligated to pay.
So who comes to us? It's not not LSI, right? I mean, LSI is gonna come to us and keep asking for money?
They're gonna be
But we
asking for
can't-
money. We've already sent them to Los.
Yeah, okay. See, it's all, it's,
They've asked for this larger invoice.
90% of the contract.
that's,
and
yeah,
we're not
man,
gonna
for
release
that?
it. There's no way.
Yeah,
It feels like we should contact them and say, you're in breach of contract, we have no intent of paying any additional funds until, the project is to completion or until we have an install day. Like, there's gotta be some way that we
And-
can bow up and say.
And
"Here's our
maybe-
cards, we're
I
playing."
agree.
it may be, but there's
I agree.
one caveat, one thing, is that TDOT is involved.
Can they help us in any way of
Well,
configuration or-
we're asking for money from TDOT to redo this median, and it's to use the River Rock.
Well,
okay?
and they're throwing
And-
money in because
They're
they
throwing
didn't
money in.
agree with the way it looked, and it's gonna cost more. And because of their concern about, the water, yeah, issue,
So-
yeah. They're gonna actually throw more money into the project.
Maybe.
Well,
And if they don't, what I'm thinking of,
They
I'm
don't-
gonna
they don't
work,
get
the
the
worst
roof
case scenario is if they don't put more money in, then what happens, because this is really, if you think about it, it's TDOT's deal. It's not Fairview, Lowe's, or the LSI, it's really TDOT. And if TDOT doesn't
Wait a
pay the
minute.
money, if TDOT doesn't pay the money out to do this, what happens next? I don't, you just think about that, because LSI, they'll say, well, pay me for what we've done, and we're out of here, and
But
there's
haven't we done
nothing.
that?
But pretty much,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, they've already got to pay for what
you
they've
know,
done.
But if they just haven't done the job, then you
Well,
You need to notify
They
them.
hadn't complied with the contract, is what it is.
okay, and I'm like Brandon, should there not be some sort of official notification sent to LSI, Lowe's, TDOT if we need to, saying, you're in breach of contract in these areas, and cite this area, this area, this area. And send that officially to someone, instead of all of us just sitting here talking about it in this building.
I think that would move some people, especially if it's on a City of Fairview letterhead. I think that's, I make the phone call, that's great, but I think they need to have an official letter.
How many meetings have you been in that they didn't include me in?
Maybe 3.
So,
And how many meetings have they had that
Yeah, nobody knows
nobody
about.
That we don't know about.
I mean, I would think it's time to send an official letter on Fairview letterhead saying you're in breach of contract, and cite where. You're in breach of contract because you did not give 30 days notification before you started planting. You're in breach of contract because you planted way beyond when you were supposed to have been finished. You didn't even start until you were supposed to have already been finished. And you need to cite them.
I think part of the reason they didn't start in April, because it was so dry in April.
We can't help it. It didn't say because it's dry.
I did several thousands of dollars worth of work in March and April. And the
Well-
availability was there. I mean, there was really, quite honestly, there was no excuse.
Didn't you say they were having trouble finding some of the
They
exotic
were having
plants?
some of the, well,
don't
they're not
have exotic.
exotic.
We don't
Well,
They're-
they're exotic to me.
Rare, okay, some rare plants,
Okay, I used the
okay?
wrong
They're
word.
all
They're
native.
exotic to
Yeah, they're
me.
all
Okay.
native.
But,
Okay, rare plants.
but they could have already gotten started. They didn't actually start
Right, I
bed
mean, I
prep
just remember
till
that being
after.
said, so
The
I-
bed
you know.
prep is something, and these guys know this. These are not newcomers to this. They know they do the bed prep as early as possible. Actually, in frozen ground is great. And they have from October 15th to April 15th.
How many,
They
how
had
many weeks was those little flags out there?
We,
Actually, right there.
yeah.
Okay, we can beat this dead horse, so can we send a letter?
Yeah, Mike, will you provide, you said you already have a list of every violation that you've been keeping.
Yeah,
So
some of
provide
it's-
it and
yeah.
we'll send it, you know.
Yeah,
So can you send the breach of contract information to Patty?
Yeah.
Even notifying TDOT that their approved vendor has failed, and LSI's thought of possibly becoming a non-approved vendor for TDOT
Yeah.
to prevent future projects, surely that would enhance their want to make this right.
So you're gonna
Yeah,
copy
no,
like
TDOT really has
TDOT
to
and
be
every,
careful
all
with
those
this
people.
You think there's gotta
Yeah,
be some
Jack
that- yeah, so that
Johnson,
they-
anybody
put
else I
pressure
can
on
come
them
up
to make them
with.
think about it.
Well, and I
If
think.
we were represented, I'd do our state representative.
And I
but we're
think
not.
that we're also forgetting that TDOT approved the plan,
And the vendor, and selected LSI.
and then, in the middle of it, stopped the project because they didn't approve the plan.
and we have that in our back pocket, because if they,
Well, he's not, we
says
don't
she
have
doesn't
one
want,
right now, that
she's
was
not gonna
my
pay
joke.
this $6,000, it was TDOT. But again, what if they said, fine, see ya?
Well, then what, well, but we can't afford to spend 20% of this project on stuff that's dead, dying, and not
Yeah.
gonna make it.
And here's the other thing too, is that we can't touch those plants really, because they're not our plants.
Because we hadn't paid for them.
They belong to
Even though we
LSI.
paid for an upfront charge. But the key is that median. If it remains out there planted and mulch and everything like it is, and it flows out on the 100 highway and causes an accident,
Who's responsible?
I don't know. But that is,
It's their medium.
It's their median, and actually.
TDOT's median.
It's TDOT's median.
It's
state of
TDOT,
Tennessee.
and they stopped the work. TDOT did the stop work order.
And they recommended what they wanted in there to control the water flow,
Do we have all that in writing?
pretty much so. Yeah,
Pretty much so. How much do we like having it all in writing?
I'll have to look back at the emails.
That meeting we had here, when it had the
That
engineers,
meeting was
Tidwell
late. Yeah.
and those, yeah.
Okay, so,
And that was recorded?
Well, we had, was it
Well, that one
recorded?
that one wasn't
No.
recorded,
That
was
was not
were
recorded?
there minutes taken?
No.
No. Boy, I wish that had been recorded.
Which meeting where you guys had?
We had several engineers, we had, 4 or 5 representatives from TDOT. We had two people from Los.
We had Whitney Sullivan, Denise Baker.
Was
We
that
had
the
everybody
meeting?
pretty well except for Sean Bible.
Well, but we had Sean's assistant, the new guy, and
They may not talk.
I got the
trade,
cards.
you know.
We had the engineers with the state and the beautification
I
person.
don't think LSI is gonna call them a bunch of liars. Nice, but they got in their horse.
But I'm like Brandon, would it not also be a good idea for us to write, I believe in paper trails,
Yeah.
to write TDOT and say, your approved vendor has not complied, not performed anywhere near the contract. This was your approved vendor, please tell us how we can fix this. I mean, and let TDOT be the gatekeeper. I mean, they're the gatekeeper. So go to TDOT and say, we need your help. This is your approved vendor. They have not done anything they were supposed to do. How do we fix it?
Just go to TDOT.
no, I don't think we need to deal with LSI. I would like to,
We need
I'd like
keep
to ask
them out.
questions.
We need to keep Loesch and
I think
TDOT
that was,
and-
yes,
and
Lowe's and
upfront on
TDOT.
that.
And then also in that letter we send to the TDOT saying, please help us, because this was your guy that you sent us, say, these are the areas where they've breached the contract. Tell us how to fix it.
Breach of contract here. They will respond to that, I know.
I think we also need to let them know that we understand that they're here to help us. And that they're the gatekeeper. I mean, they've got so we need to make sure that they know that we understand that we're gonna have your help to get this fixed. Can we do that?
I already said it.
Okay.
It's done.
Then let's
Hey,
move
and I
on.
need your, I'd like to know what the other 3 meetings consist of, because I wasn't invited to them. So, I'd like to know what was discussed or whatever.
One of the meetings, I actually went to Andrew's office at Lowe's to, after we did the inventory that day, he asked me, requested me to come by and actually talk about replacements, get the numbers and everything. That's where I met with Mr. Lowe's and met with John Lavender as well. And this is where we all kind of said, okay, what's going on? And this is where I'm hearing the 90-day. That was John Lavender's big deal. John's the one that sat here that night. And so that meeting, I don't know, that was a meeting to really work out logistics and, numbers and stuff like that. That was not a meeting for contract or anything, so, I mean, I
And that was
can't,
this summer,
that was back.
after the
After
walk. Yeah,
after
okay.
our inventory.
That was August.
Uh-huh.
So until now, this is the first
I haven't
y'all
had a
heard of
meeting
them?
since. I have not heard anything from Andrew till this week. I called last week, and then I called yesterday, and then today I got him, and this morning, and he said,
I talked to him yesterday.
And I think we've also learned a valuable lesson that maybe all these meetings should be either someone taking minutes, or there should be follow-up notes made, and everybody email, this is what we understand happened during this meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? I mean, I think anytime you have a meeting and you follow up with the email and you say, this is what I understood we agreed to, then you've got that paperwork. You've got that paper trail that you can go back to and say, okay, this is what we said we heard, you did not disagree with that. So it's as good as anything else. But, I think all those things, there needs to be someone needs to be doing follow-up after the meeting. All right, so we can move on. Patty, you're gonna deal with this? Okay.
So you want to just?
No, you're going to email me, I guess, is the way I
I've got
took
a
it.
kind of a breakdown of,
Okay.
but then there's some stuff on the design, on the contract, or the specifications on the design that I'll need to pick up, so.
Here,
Okay.
and we need to attach a copy of this letter to the minutes. And
I'd like a copy of that letter too, if you'll send it to me.
That's the only copy.
Okay.
well, let's don't lose it. But
We
it's
got
an
a
email
copy
somewhere.
machine, we got a copy machine right in the other
Yeah,
room.
let's do that.
Why don't we go
Took
make
my
some
only
copies?
Agenda, you took my.
I've taken everything you have. I don't want that. Okay, the meeting place. I'm almost afraid to hear this.
No, it's not.
He sent me a list, and I talked to Mike about the Virginia Pines, that he's having trouble getting, and I advised him what you said.
The White
They
Pines
were
are-
the White Pines, and the others that he could go to if need be. So he's securing plants to be able to get started on moving forward in the planting
So
season.
we're making progress there. Okay.
And the hollies were changed. Did you mention it?
I made him stay with the Hollies.
What's that?
I made him stay with the Hollies.
So the CO
Oh,
has,
okay.
Yep,
the CO has still not been issued. Okay.
just temporary.
And then the
Okay.
dead tree that's,
Oh, the dead tree, I talked him into 5 redbud trees. It did die, and so.
well, we knew that was
Have we moved on to 5.3? Is that the stuff at end dead tree?
No,
Oh, we're still
on
on
the
the church
church,
dead end,
yeah.
a dead
The
tree.
church that we knew that tree was gonna die.
Yeah, the one they had the,
Right.
yeah.
they,
So
yeah,
I
they,
talked him into, I went to Mike about that before I talked to him about it, and I talked him into 5 redbud trees, kind of meandering underneath the other trees.
did you tell him what minimum caliber for that? And you said, what, a 2-inch, or what'd you say? 2-inch or 3?
Okay, so we're good?
That's good. That's real good.
All right, 5.3, dead tree at Stuffy Lane.
I've looked at those and I've talked to Mitch on that, and he's watching that one real close. There is some dead limbs like there is at Mapco. If it continues to die, he will replace it.
It will
He's still
continue
under
to
bond.
Continue to die, I love it. continue to die.
It is, it's,
I've been
Oh, Lord, really? I mean, you know, that's
watching the red buds.
yeah.
everything.
We do have some dead limbs on the ones that we planted here.
Oh, I'll take a, just
Maybe
let
it'll
me know,
come
I'll
back
take
to
a look at them.
Poof. Okay, so we're good with the dead tree. Discussion requiring 3-year maintenance bond on tree and shrub survival on commercial developments.
Okay, I'm gonna advise deferring that tonight. I've talked to city manager Scott Collins about that, and he wants to look at the legalities of what rights we have on private property. So I want to defer that, I wouldn't say indefinitely, but, I don't know.
I thought it was the commercial developments.
It's commercial, yes, ma'am. But it's still private property.
Okay,
We already require 2, right?
We require one.
One.
Yeah, and that's not enough in my opinion, but,
If we're already doing it,
I know, that's,
then
it looks like we have the right to do it, or we wouldn't be doing it to begin with.
But anyway, I will continue to pursue this, you know.
Well, okay, well, let me understand this. So why does he think there's a legality issue if we already require 2 years?
Well, require one.
1 year,
1 year.
still.
Okay, so if we're requiring
A
anything.
1-year maintenance on, site maintenance agreement on commercial property.
And where is that in the, do you know where that is? And
I'll have to find
Yeah,
it, but
that's-
it's,
And you saw what Jane sent you, the design review? Is this what this is? Where is what Jane sent us from the design review manual?
Well, that's, there's a maintenance of improvements, 1-101.4.
Doesn't think we can do
Apparently, I
3
didn't take that
years.
away from you, because I don't have that.
No, I'm not gonna let you have everything. And Jane highlighted that, and there's one part in there, it says landscape and plant materials which are dead or deteriorated shall be replaced to the same specifications.
Wait a
on the
minute, whoa. Turn it back on. Thank you. Okay, and so what has Jane highlighted for
Well,
us?
she's highlighted a lot of things in here, and, but one is landscape and plant materials, this is under maintenance of improvements. Landscape and plant materials which are dead or deteriorated shall be replaced at the same specifications on the original approved site plan, but it doesn't have a time period on it.
So that would also apply to Publix, right?
Yeah, actually everything, but there's nothing in here that says in so many years or so much time.
But if this is the design, and you were asking about, could they come back in and do,
The Rock.
yeah, and if it says it has to be replaced according to original specifications.
Right.
what section is that?
1-101.4.4.
And what other information did Jane highlight for us? There was stuff about the
oh,
maintenance.
There's the preservation of existing trees, talking about the protection of vegetation surroundings specified for retention, and I think that had something to do with the church, the meeting place.
say all of that will be under review. We'll start, designate steps.
But I think it's in here that's where the time limit. And I don't know. I know I saw it. I'd have to go, that's,
Usually, when Larry replies, he always says, no,
and where does that 1 year, where does that come from?
That's what she said, that was that, all right.
That's design review.
I'll
There's a whole-
send Big Will. Probably tell me.
he's
In a minute, yeah, I send resign review.
Okay, so Brandon, since you're Jane, we're gonna table 5.4 to
Since
November.
what? Since what?
He's filling in
He's
for
Jane.
Jane. He's Jane
Oh, he's
tonight.
Jane. I wondered why he was,
He's Jane.
Okay, gotcha.
And boy, did you see that? She says, make thorough, would somebody make thorough notes?
Yes, and Lord help you if you don't.
Man,
Before, and I think she just sat down and watched the whole video.
That's what I'm saying, is you probably would rather watch the video or
that's
listen
what
to
she
the
said,
tape.
and speak clearly
And
into the
speak
microphone,
clearly.
yeah.
We're speaking clearly, Jane. Okay, 5.5 is on hold due to hold on funds supporting the roadscapes project.
Said she puts that on there, just, she's gonna hold it there until
Yeah.
we figure it all out.
Yeah. Okay, 5.5.1. Review and provide additional details and information on recommendations sent to the BOC from the April Tree Commission meeting, which is still that same thing. Any discussion on any of those things before we move to new business? 6.1, money for park trails from the tree fund.
Debbie Rainey's on that.
Yes, aren't you impressed? So the health department, in conjunction with United Way, Vanderbilt, and the city of Fairview, are looking at trails and connecting trails from the library to Bowie. One of the things we've talked about is putting, and we're still trying to figure out, and I have actually talked to someone since that meeting, purchasing bikes, putting in the park that families can rent at no fee. I mean, we'll figure out how they can, originally we were discussing how to use their library cards, some sort of swipe card where they could get it, and we will know who has the bike. But then we decided that instead of doing that at first, that maybe we could buy the bikes, put up the rack, and then rent them Monday through Saturday using the staff at the nature center. And then if it goes well, then we would try to invest in or try to figure out how to do the swipe card so that people can rent the bikes for their families to go ride. The goal is Fairview schools have 15% obesity rate, which is the highest in the county. So
Wow.
everyone
Did
is,
you say 15? Mm-hmm. That's all?
that's high. Every school
Wow,
is
that
over,
sounds low to me, but.
is over 15% of the students. So, and that's all four schools. So,
Looks like it's more than that.
so all these organizations have come together to try to address that problem. So the question was, there's a grant that could be available through the health department. The health department would write that grant, but they don't have the money because it's a reimbursable grant. The question was, could we use tree fund money to front that money and then be reimbursed?
Now, we're going back to, what, a couple of years ago when we said, okay, that money is in a tree bank for putting trees back out on, right?
Well, I mean, it was my
That's
understanding.
the fence question?
It's not
a
really
fence.
for the bikes that
No,
we're
it's
looking
trails.
for, it's the trails
It's
that
the
we're looking
trails.
for.
That's
And
not- that's
since
not
they
vegetation.
opened it wide open and uses what the tree bank could be used for, we were discussing in the meeting, why could not we use the tree bank fund to help build the trails, for the grants? Or if
Keep in
there was
mind,
a
every penny
match.
of it would come back.
Yeah, it'd be reimbursed.
Yeah, every penny of that's
Oh, it's a
reimbursed.
And
loan.
also, if it's for trails, I mean, that's part of landscape, which is,
Yeah, it's trails, not bikes. The bikes have already been, money's already been secured, I believe, for the bikes.
Do you know what the figure is? What
It's
just
a
a-
$30,000 grant to build the trails. And the
I know
trails would
one of-
connect, the trails would connect the library to Bowie, to the nature center. Was that kind of what the plan was?
It would actually go from the library and run into a permanent trail, but it would lead back to,
And United Way is sponsoring the money to build a Born Learning Trail, which is, there's 12 stops along the trail where kids and their parents will stop and do things. They will read the signs, so it helps them learn about everything they could possibly ever learn about, and plus there's exercise involved. So the discussion was, that trail would be from the nature center to Joanne's classroom and then come back out to the parking lot at the nature center.
Which is already existing trail.
Right, but the post and the signs going up would be that. And hopefully, this trail would somehow, because that's for toddlers, let's say toddlers through second graders. So then hopefully this trail would meet into that. So if they wanted to walk further and do more, they would still be able to do that on that still connecting trail.
So the $30,000 is for
Trail, to actually,
labor?
labor, what it would
What's the
require to get it.
materials?
Materials.
And what will, do you know any of the details on materials? What is that?
Well, we discussed last night in the park board meeting,
It went on
that,
till 10 o'clock.
that basically, we're having, the trail guy, the guy that designs trails, he's meeting in October with us. We're gonna have to get a trail design. That's the first thing for we can go for some of these grants. And then they think that we could do some of the labor ourselves with the park staff. And so we'll have to clear the trail and then, whatever else comes along with, and a lot of the grants require you to, may require handicap accessible, we'll just have to see depending on, what direction.
Has to be ASA,
It does not, ADA.
ADA.
I would also think that, the question was, before we could even start making a plan of what the trail would be like, what it would be, where it would be, what it would be made from, and how it would look, we have to make sure that we can find the $30,000 that's gonna be reimbursed. And the reimbursable grants, truly, every penny comes back into that fund. There's not, you submit your receipts monthly, and it comes back in.
Back that quick.
Does the tree bank have that, or isn't it all spoken for this, median? Is it-
No,
pay that,
No,
get it
we
back?
got, there's
No,
quite a
oh
bit.
dear.
But it all gets reimbursed in the median, but I'm saying, like, if we're loaning out 80 for that or 40 for that, and then waiting for it to come back, and then 30 for this, and like we're sending money and then waiting for reimbursement.
Well, this
We're
is,
not overlapping.
this we can do monthly.
So the 30,000 figure is what United Way came up with?
Health Department.
Health Department. I'm
There's a
sorry, Health
grant.
Department.
No, it's not even, the Health Department can apply for a grant
They
that
just
will.
said 30,000, just through a $30,000.
Right.
We don't know if it's gonna cost 30, what it's gonna cost, we just
Right.
know there's a $30,000 grant to help.
Because I'll tell you, that'll go a long way.
Yeah. So, and the trail that we're doing, the trail that's already there that we're doing the Born Learning information for, United Way's paying for that. So, anything kind of trail maintenance that might need to be done, we'll have to come into that grant too. But for the signs and the posts and all the stuff that goes with that, United Way is doing. So this is the larger, for lack of a better word, the larger connecting trail.
Cool.
It is. It's amazing to me how many organizations are now in Fairview trying to make so much change. It's
nice.
huge. It's huge.
I'll be in that meeting tomorrow where I saw our bike stands, like, bikes in between them. An email, so. They have.
Well, I would recommend that we get the cheapest bike rack we can to begin with to see if it's gonna work. And then if it becomes popular and the goal was that families, no matter their economic status, could come to the park, use a bike, ride as a family, and not be having to pay to do that. So that's the goal. Well, that's why you have to check them out. You have to leave your car keys, your driver's license, you have to leave something at the nature center, yes. So that when you take the bike, then if it doesn't come back, then you don't get your car keys or your driver's license. And plus, if it does become huge and big, then we can use the swipe card like they do in Metro. And then connect it to
That's pretty
some sort
popular
of.
in Metro.
Yeah, of course, they charge for theirs.
Yeah.
Ours will not be. Ours will be free of fees. So, something to think about. I don't think we have to make that decision now. I got the impression that grant, that we could probably make that decision in probably November, and we're still good to go. So, just something to think about. You
This
know,
will need to go to the BOC.
Yes, it would.
I think there's a lot, you guys had that meeting, I think the meeting had like the Friends of the Park, the Friends of the Library, the Williams County Library, the Health Department, United Way. So it was really, when I saw that meeting notes, I was like, wow, that's really amazing, this might really happen quick, you know, like, and so, but we talked about it pretty endlessly last night, and I think that we are, right now, waiting for that trail guy to come out. He's gonna recommend how the trail lays out, best area, how wide it should be, what should be made out of, you know, and then we're gonna go from there to try and get a design and then proceed for.
But he's gonna require payment, right? He's,
Yeah, he will.
and do we know what that figure is?
Well, I think he's gonna come visit and then talk about it, but like the Friends of the, park, I think donated, or applying for a grant for possible payment, help payment there. Somebody donated, or voted on allowing $500, it was one of the Friends programs. So a lot of people have started offering, trying to get that help started for that front survey and that front.
So-
So,
So I'm
We
just-
have $800 designated for the survey, but it turns out that we may not need the survey. The guy that was gonna do the trail, basically said that, he really can do a lot of that for us. So,
Who is this guy that's a trail guy?
Jack Cannon actually,
Jack Cannon used him with another trail or
Ritter,
something.
and his last name Ryder or Ritter?
Yeah,
Is it Ryder or Ritter?
He-
Looks like Ritter.
Richard Emerson was talking about him last
He-
night.
yeah,
I think
he's
he
done
does
this
Ritter
before.
Rider.
it does sound correct.
Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good thing?
Oh, yeah.
Good, good.
So-
It's exciting though, how quickly
Well, I
it's
was-
forming.
I was confused because it sounded like, almost like a landscape architect kind of thing, is that I'm designing this trail and how elaborate. So when I think about that, and LA doing it, then the cost,
Absolutely.
Or you know, there's
yes. They're not designers
He would be
per
more of
se,
a
they are
consultant of
trail
saying,
builders.
this is
and-
what you could probably do, and then I think we're gonna try and, park staff, try and help start the clearing and stuff like that.
And the little trail's ready to go as soon as we get the okay that order the stuff, we're ready to do it. So,
It's a great idea.
I
Yeah.
mean, so that's ready. I'm just waiting for y'all to tell me to order it.
I'll have to,
3 or 4 times. And it's gonna come in on the east side along the power line. That's what the perimeter trail.
Go over-
That, some of that trail is,
Well, it connects right to, it would connect right from the library into that wide section that would go over to that park, or to that, pavilion, the first right pavilion when you come in. So it would be accessible. It's just kind of trying to connect the park. It first started just for, so, you know, you can go to the library, read a book, and walk around, you know, and check out a book and things like that. So I don't know if it's,
I'm just
necessarily,
talking about
the
it
bikes would be in the
puts
park.
the perimeter trail, but there's that area over there, we're part of
I think it's okay.
it.
Yeah. And that's on the very other side over there by those power lines, so you'd have to
No,
go,
the power lines come in
well, yeah.
one
But that section
one
that's in,
over there, and
that
one over
section
there.
that's in rough shape or whatever, I think is on the opposite side, and you'd have to go, 4 miles or something to get all the way to that section. Yeah, you'd read a book.
There you go.
I used to back there all the time,
So does this need to have a motion to go to the VOC, or,
I would say, the Bourne Reading Trail
Yeah.
section could, I mean, I can have it put on the next agenda if y'all want to vote on that. I don't think we're far enough along on the, we already voted that the survey could be done. So that's already done. Now, when we get to the point about can we use the money, it'll have to go.
well, then maybe we should start, because she will not apply for the grant until she knows, yeah, that there's funds.
Okay.
Surely
I
though,
don't-
if someone says, yeah, we approved a $30,000 grant, surely we can fund some, we can make the funds happen, surely.
It does say, this this money will be placed in a tree bank fund, which is limited to the cost of landscaping,
I think that was adjusted though.
and it was.
Yeah, that was, remember that was the big, what landscaping
Wonder why
exactly
she cut
is.
this.
Yeah.
We don't update the books.
Okay, so do we need to,
Yeah, we'll go ahead and stick it on that 20th with the same, on the Bourne Reading Trail and the, requesting to use the funds.
okay, 6.2, we're going to table until next month because Jane's not here and Tony Sutton's not here. 6.3, Tony Sutton's not here.
What is 6.3?
Discussion on timing of election of tree commission officers. We just did that in July. So we'll table that until next month when Tony's here. Wayne Hall, do we have an update on tree bank funds?
Probably earned the $8 and something.
There you go. It's always good to know we're earning money. Citizen comments? Yes, ma'am.
For the Bourne Trail by Joey's Classroom, that won't interfere with any, ADA trail, ground covering? If we don't put something in, and then we gotta move it, because whatever we're doing with the ADA trail, I don't know if that would affect that. And then, how many park staff employees do we have? 2? Justin and Brian? I mean, we're saying the park staff, I mean, we're putting a lot on these 2 guys to do the work. If there's only the 2 of them, we're gonna have to rely on volunteers, and I'm sure we'll get it, but I don't think we can say the park staff is going to do it. That's
Well, Brian was in the meeting, and the original meeting, and then also Keith and Brian. I mean, so, not to say, they were saying if they could do it, it would have to be winter months when things were slow.
I understand that, but I mean, I don't know if you're including the naturalist, the program director, and Keith, but we only have the 2 guys doing the work there.
Oh, I mean, valid
I
point.
think everything is a great idea, and I think by having reps from different commissions sitting in on these meetings, it's good, because Brandon, you can put your input from the park, Lisa from the planning, and I think everyone is on the same page.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no more comments, we are adjourned, and the next meeting is Tuesday, November 1. You can have all your stuff back.